Again, I am rooting for a long-term deal. I do want that, and I think they want that. But I do not think just pay him is a good precedent to set. You don't create, the best of locker rooms around the NFL by just paying them. That's not what results from this. Cooley taught me and maybe a lot of you as well that the impact on locker rooms in situations like this is overstated by the outside. Most players are into their own situations, their own personal lives. They might want what's best for Terry, but they're not going to risk their own situation by somehow letting it get to them that Terry didn't get what he deserved. And, as you look at this, because players do pay attention to money and they talk to their agents, et cetera, there may be players in that locker room right now that agree with the team. That may not have occurred to some of you, but there may be players in that locker room that say, yeah, you can't pay him Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or top 3 to 4 money. I mean, how many teams seriously in this league would pay Terry McLaurin top 3 money, top 4 money? I mean, somebody might do it. I hope it's not this organization. I don't. But I still think a deal will get done. One thing about the last few weeks, this may be a contrarian view from many of you. I'm more confident in the team's front office and their business chops. I trust in them. So there is one way for Terry to get leverage because it's really hard to gain leverage. Trust me, they know that Jalen Lane's highlight catches and route running, at this point, because he's not lining up against Sauce Gardner, and they're not really tackling, and there's just a lot more to the game. They understand that he's a rookie and that, it's unlikely that he's going to have a Terry-like impact on the season. But the point is that there's one way for Terry to gain leverage in all of this. And the way for him to do it is to actually hold out from a regular season game or two. He's not going to gain leverage this time of the year. It's just, unless every receiver went down with injuries. Even if the team had this sense through training camp, because you're not going to see it in preseason games, you're more likely to see it tomorrow in a joint practice with the Patriots. That they just, oh my God, we have undersold or oversold what we think we have and what we think Jaden can elevate. Because Noah Brown's, not going to be healthy, and Luke McCaffrey's not really coming along, and Jalen Lane's a rookie, and KJ Osborne's just a number 3 or a number 4, and Michael Gallup can't run like whatever it is. It still doesn't matter. And Terry can't gain that leverage until it happens in a real game. So if this standstill were to continue and the two sides were so far apart, no hope of getting a deal, the only hope for Terry to gain any leverage, because he has none right now, no financial leverage, would be to actually hold out in a regular season game or two and then hope like hell that the results are really obvious, that they miss him terribly. Like Emmitt Smith back in 94 when he held out for the first 2 games of the Cowboys season as the defending champs. They went 0-2. They missed him dearly. They had to pay him. Terry is not Emmitt Smith. Let's not go there yet. He's important to this team, and I don't think they'll be as good without him as they will with him. I think they're going to have him, so I'm not really concerned about that. But if he wanted and hoped for any leverage, which he has none of right now, he can't get it without actually holding out from a regular season game or two and hoping that on September 7th against the Giants and then 4 nights later in Green Bay against the Packers, the offense, looks terrible. The receivers drop, 10 balls, 3 touchdown passes, and they're 0-2. And then they're like, wow, we really need a playmaker in addition to, what we have. Terry could gain leverage in that scenario. It's the only scenario I could see. The worst thing, though, is if he were to hold out from a regular season game or two, and the offense is humming just as it was last year, and they end up looking really good offensively, and Debo ends up, being more than he's been over the last few years, and somebody else steps up, and really it's an elite level quarterback raising the level of everything around him. And then you have this picture of, yeah, he's good and he makes the team better, but the team is still more than capable without him. But that would be the one way in which he could, grab a little bit of leverage. He's not going to do it in the preseason unless every receiver they have goes down with an injury, right? I guess that would be another way for it to happen. If Debo gets injured, if Noah Brown really is injured, if Luke McCaffrey gets hurt, and they're out there signing Amari Cooper, who's still out there, and they're trying to make it work, late in camp with Cooper. That would put the team into perhaps a more desperate situation, because what is working for Terry, beyond the emotional stuff, which I think is a bit overrated, and I don't think they care as much about that as maybe some of the fans do, because I think there are plenty of people like me who have trust in them. We did this poll about 2 weeks ago. Whose side are you on, Team Terry or Team Front Office? It was 50-50. It was 50-50 at that point. But yeah, the way for him to potentially gain a shred of leverage and force the team's hand into potentially paying more than they want to pay is if either all the receivers went down in camp or he held out in a regular season game or two and the offense completely flailed, and soiled itself in 2 straight games. That's the way for that to happen. But look, netting it out, I am still believing 3-4, 75% chance that they reach some sort of contract extension deal before the opener against the Giants. And I am still very much trusting and believing in what the front office is doing. There's a lot that's going on, I'm sure, behind the scenes. I had mentioned before a few weeks ago that the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal that was done, about 15, 16 months ago at this point, done by 2 of the top 3 contract guys in the organization for us right now, that they probably look at that deal and say, man, if we gave Terry that deal, we're giving him a deal that's actually at $30 million a year, equal to a player that is probably his equal, if not better. What are we doing? And younger, much younger. So there is that in play. There is the idea that the Metcalf deal is, overpriced, Pittsburgh overpaid. You've got the Cortland Sutton deal out there. You've got the T. Higgins and see, I think they view him as Higgins and Ayuk, not as anything more than that. And, at an older age as well. I'm not concerned about the age. I think you get 3 really good seasons out of Terry here. Minimum of 3. So if they do a 3-year deal, even a 4-year deal that, doesn't have a lot of money in year 4 and it's more front loaded, that to me would be fine.